The alarm screamed. But it wasn't the sound that jolted me awake, it was the weight of a tiny body sprawled across my chest, drooling on my shirt. I blinked into the dim morning light, my head pounding like I'd been hit by a truck, and found a pair of wide, curious eyes staring at me from a kid who couldn't be older than 3. "Dada, you sleep funny," he giggled, poking my nose. And my heart stopped because I'm not a dater, at least. I wasn't yesterday. I sat up, the kid sliding off me onto a bed that wasn't mine, in a room I didn't recognize. The walls were lined with photos of him, smiling, next to a man I knew too well, Ethan Caldwell, my college roommate from NYU. The guy I'd secretly loved for years and never had the guts to tell. My eyes snagged on a gold ring glinting on my left hand, and my stomach lurched. This had to be a prank. A dream. A fever-induced hallucination. But the kid Leo. His name popped into my head like it belonged there, was real. Tugging at my sleeve. Asking for pancakes. The apartment smelled of coffee and something sweet. Like vanilla. I stumbled into the living room, Leo trailing behind. And there was Ethan, standing in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like this was normal. His blonde hair was a mess, his t-shirt clinging to his broad shoulders. And when he turned, his blue eyes locked on mine with a mix of warmth and something heavier, guilt. Maybe. "Morning, Jamie," he said, voice soft, like he was afraid I'd bolt. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I opened my mouth to demand answers. What the hell was going on? Why was I wearing a wedding ring? Why was there a kid calling me Dada? But Leo beat me to it, running to Ethan and hugging his leg. "Papa, Dada's awake." Ethan's smile faltered, just for a second, before he scooped Leo up, kissing his forehead. My chest tightened. "Papa. Dada. Us." I gripped the counter, my knuckles white, trying to piece together a life I didn't remember living. "Ethan," I said, my voice hoarse. "What is this? Why am I here? Why is—" I gestured at Leo, who was now smearing syrup on his face. Ethan set him down, handed him a toy truck, and stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell his cedarwood cologne, the same one he wore back in college. "Jamie," he said, "we need to talk. But first, let's get through breakfast." Leo's been up since 6, and he's a terror when he's hungry. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he explained. But Leo's laughter filled the room, and something in me softened. I sat at the table, watching Ethan move with a quiet confidence, like he'd done this 1,000 mornings. He slid a plate of pancakes in front of me, and our fingers brushed. My heart did a stupid flip, just like it used to when we'd stay up late in our dorm, talking about everything and nothing. My feelings for him, a secret I buried deep. "Start from the beginning," I said, cutting into a pancake I didn't have the stomach to eat. Ethan sighed, sitting across from me, his hands clasped tight. "4 years ago," he began. "After graduation, we got close. Really close." His eyes flicked to Leo, who was now zooming his truck across the floor. "We got married 2 years ago, Jamie. And Leo, he's ours. We adopted him last year." My fork clattered to the plate. Married. Adopted. My brain refused to process it. "I don't remember any of this," I said, my voice shaking. "Yesterday, I was single, living in Brooklyn, working at that shitty ad agency. You were, I don't know, off doing your architect thing." We hadn't talked in years. Ethan's face crumpled, and he reached for my hand. But I pulled back. Don't. I snapped. Then softer. Just tell me what's happening. He swallowed hard, his eyes searching mine. You had an accident. Jamie. A car hit you 3 weeks ago. You've been in a coma. The doctors warned us about memory loss. But I didn't think. His voice broke, and he looked away, rubbing his face. I didn't think you'd forget us. The room spun. A coma. Memory loss. I stared at Leo, who was singing to himself, oblivious to the storm in my head. This kid was mine, ours. Ethan was my husband. The life I'd dreamed of, the one I'd never dared hope for, was real, and I couldn't remember a single second of it. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I wanted to, Ethan said, his eyes wet. But the doctors said to ease you into it. And you woke up so confused. I didn't want to scare you off. He reached for me again. And this time, I didn't pull away. His hand was warm, familiar, even if my mind screamed that this was impossible. I love you, Jamie, he said, and my heart cracked open, because I'd loved him too, for so long. In silence, Leo climbed into my lap, sticky fingers tugging at my shirt. Dada, you stay? He asked, and I froze. My eyes locked on Ethan's, searching for an anchor in this chaos. I didn't know how to be a husband, let alone a dad. But the weight of Leo's trust, the hope in Ethan's gaze, pinned me in place. Yeah, buddy, I said, my voice thick. I'm staying. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Ethan showed me around the apartment, a cozy place in Manhattan's West Village, filled with pieces of a life I didn't know. Our wedding photo on the mantle, Leo's finger paintings on the fridge, a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby we'd both loved in college. Every detail was a punch to the gut, proof of a love I'd lost to a fog in my brain. Ethan was patient, answering my questions, but I could see the strain in his eyes, the fear that I'd never remember. By afternoon, Leo was napping, and Ethan and I sat on the couch, a careful distance between us. What if I never get it back? I asked, staring at the ring on my finger. What if I can't be the person you married? Ethan's hand found mine, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. Then we start over, he said, his voice steady. I fell in love with you once, Jamie. I'll do it again if I have to. His words hit like a tidal wave, stirring something deep, something that felt like memory but wasn't quite. I wanted to believe him, to lean into this life, but doubt gnawed at me. How could I love him the way he deserved if I didn't even know who I was anymore? And Leo, what kind of father could I be when I didn't even know how to be a husband? The days that followed were a tightrope walk between hope and heartbreak. Ethan tried to rebuild our life for me, piece by piece, like he was assembling a puzzle with half the pieces missing. He showed me old texts, videos of us laughing at Leo's first steps, even the playlist we danced to at our wedding, a mix of cheesy pop and indie rock that screamed us. But every memory he shared was a stranger's story, and the more I tried to grasp it, the more it slipped away. Leo, though, was impossible to resist. He'd climb into my lap at breakfast, babbling about dinosaurs or demanding I read him Goodnight Moon for the 3rd time in a row. His trust was a lifeline, but it terrified me too. What if I let him down? What if I let Ethan down? I caught Ethan watching me sometimes. His eyes soft but shadowed, like he was waiting for the old Jamie to break through. I wanted to be that person for him, but I didn't know how. One night, after Leo was asleep, Ethan pulled out a photo album. "This was us," he said, flipping to a picture of us at Coney Island. Arms around each other, grinning like idiots. My throat tightened. I remembered that day not as a husband, but as a college kid, pining for Ethan, too scared to say it. "I was in love with you back then," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "But I never told you." Ethan's eyes widened, then softened. "I know," he said. "I was in love with you too. It took us a while to figure it out, but we did." He turned the page, revealing a photo of our wedding in a navy suit. Him in gray. Both of us laughing as we cut the cake. "You were so nervous that day," he said, smiling. "You kept saying you didn't deserve me. I told you that was bullshit." I laughed, but it came out choked. "Sounds like me." I traced the photo with my finger, willing the memory to come back. Nothing. Just a hollow ache. Ethan closed the album and took my hand. "You don't have to force it," he said. "We've got time." But time felt like an enemy, ticking down to a moment when he'd realize I wasn't enough. The next morning, I woke to a text from my sister, Mia, who I hadn't seen since the accident. "Heard you're awake. Call me. We need to talk." My stomach nodded. Mia and I had always been close, but she'd never approved of Ethan, calling him a dreamy distraction back in college. I didn't tell Ethan about the text. Instead, I met her at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, leaving Leo with him. Mia hugged me tight, tears in her eyes, but her expression shifted when I told her about Ethan and Leo. "You don't remember any of it?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Jamie, it's a lot. Are you sure you're okay with this? With him?" Her tone stung, and I bristled. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "You changed after you got with Ethan. You were so focused on him, on this life you built. I worry you're jumping back into something you don't fully understand." Her words planted a seed of doubt, and it grew fast. Was I just playing a role, trying to be the husband and father Ethan needed? I went home, my head a mess, and found Ethan and Leo building a pillow fort in the living room. Ethan's smile faded when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, and I couldn't lie to him. I told him about Mia, about her doubts, about my fear that I was failing at this life I didn't remember choosing. Ethan's face fell, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he took my hands, his grip firm. "Jamie, I know this is hard. I know you're scared. But you chose me once, and I chose you. We chose Leo. That's real, even if you can't feel it yet." His voice cracked, and I saw the weight he'd been carrying loving someone who might never love him back the same way. I wanted to kiss him, to tell him I'd try, but the doubt lingered. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Ethan's steady breathing beside me. I didn't know how to be his husband, but I knew I didn't want to lose him. Not again. Weeks turned into months, and I settled into a fragile rhythm. Leo's laughter became my anchor, his small hand in mine grounding me when the world felt too big. Ethan was patient, but I saw the cracks moments when he'd turn away too quickly, hiding the hurt in his eyes when I didn't remember an anniversary or a private joke. I was falling for him all over again. But it wasn't the same. My love was new, tentative, while his was weathered, tested by years I couldn't recall. One evening, we took Leo to Central Park, his tiny sneakers kicking up leaves as he ran ahead. Ethan and I sat on a bench, watching him chase pigeons. "You're good with him," Ethan said, his voice soft. "You always were." I smiled, but the weight of his words pressed on me. "I'm trying," I said, "but I don't know if I'm enough. For him. For you." Ethan turned to me, his eyes fierce. "You are. You always have been." Before I could respond, Leo ran back, holding a dandelion. "Make a wish, Dada," he said, thrusting it at me. I closed my eyes, wishing for the impossible, to remember, to be whole again. When I opened them, Ethan was watching me, his expression raw, vulnerable. I reached for his hand, and for the first time, it felt like home. But life wasn't a fairy tale. Mia's doubts lingered, and so did mine. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patel, who specialized in memory recovery. She warned me that my memories might never return, but she encouraged me to build new ones. "You're not just your past," she said. "You're who you choose to be now." Her words stuck with me, and I started to let go of the need to remember, focusing instead on the life in front of me. One night, Ethan came home late from work, his face drawn. "Bad day?" I asked, pouring him a glass of wine. He nodded, sinking onto the couch. "Lost a big client. They didn't like my designs." I sat beside him, closer than I'd dared before. "They're idiots," I said, and he laughed, the sound breaking the tension. We talked for hours. About his work. About Leo. About us. It was the first time I felt like his partner, not just a guest in his life. The turning point came on Leo's 4th birthday. We threw a party in the apartment. Balloons and streamers everywhere. Kids running wild. Ethan and I worked together. Seamless. Like we'd done this forever. When Leo blew out his candles, his face lit up, and I looked at Ethan, his eyes shining with pride. In that moment, I didn't care about the memories I'd lost. I had Thysis. Now. Later, after the guests left, Ethan and I cleaned up, Leo asleep in his room. "I love you," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Ethan froze, then turned, his eyes searching mine. "You mean it?" he asked, and I nodded, my heart pounding. "I don't know if it's the same love you remember," I said, "but it's real." He stepped closer, cupping my face, and kissed me, soft and slow, like he was memorizing me all over again. The kiss wasn't a cure. My memories didn't flood back. But it was a promisito to him, to Leo, to myself. I'd lost years, but I'd gained a family, a love I didn't have to hide anymore. We stood there, wrapped in each other, the city humming outside, and I knew I'd fight for this life, even if I had to build it from scratch. In the end, it wasn't about remembering. It was about choosing. I chose Ethan. Leo. Use very day. With every step. Through the fear and the joy. And that was enough.